Good day, mates, from Armidale, New South Wales. And that's one of the city names that I don't have too much difficulty pronouncing, Armidale. And Armidale is dubbed the Cathedral City. Armidale in the New England High Country is one of Australia's most elegant regional cities with an altitude of 1 kilometer above sea level. It's known for vibrant autumn foliage and cool breezes in the summer. Wander its streets and find 19th century churches mixed with modern cafes and restaurants. And that's what I'm going to do on this winter morning here as I find my way down to the city center. And in doing so, I come across this memorial here. And you can see they've got the different locations on the memorial where they're remembering those that have sacrificed their lives here for this wonderful country. Palestine, Mesopotamia. I see Egypt on the column there, and you got all the names of various soldiers. Here is Gallipoli. Gallipoli is another name, and then you come across over here. You have Afghanistan, Iraq, East Timor, peacekeeping and peacemaking forces, Vietnam, Malayan emergency, there's Korea, and then over here you have the HMAS Armidale right here. Bathurst class corvette, 650 tons, launched January 23rd, 1942. And I think that it was sunk at 3:15 p.m. on December 1st in 1942 off of Timor right there. Okay, so let's continue on through the park, and I'm just actually on my way out for a morning bite to eat as I start another day here on this trip to Australia. That's now gone into, I think as I'm filming this, it's 4 months. And just across the way there is one of the many churches or cathedrals that you'll see here in Armidale, and I'll go up and see if I can't give you a nice view of that. Every time I see a cathedral like this, I think of the book Pillars of the Earth, and I wonder if this guy over in Michigan that I turned on to Pillars of the Earth, I wonder if he ever got around to finishing that book. His name is Mark, and I sure would be curious to know if in fact he ever was able to read that book. But look at that church. That right there is the, if I can find it, that is Saints Mary and Joseph Cathedral that you're looking at. Isn't that something?
We get a notification every time Thomas hopped on.
I'm just going to step across the street here and give you a nicer view. But look at that. Isn't that a beautiful church? Or cathedral, I'm sorry. Wonder what the difference is between a cathedral and a church. I'm sure somebody out there can let me know. But there it is. Look at that. And all of its majesty. Wonderful. Okay, so continuing along. You don't have to walk very far from one church until you come across another one, and thus the name, the City of Cathedrals. As far as things to do, discover Armidale's Cosmopolitan Center on a self-guided heritage walk or a guided bus tour, and see its grand cathedrals and colonial buildings in green, tree-lined streets. A short drive southwest of Armidale is Saumarez Homestead, a National Trust listed Edwardian mansion built between 1888 and 1906 that's open to the public. Now, I don't know if I'll have the opportunity to visit that, but here is I think this is probably on the same property as the building where or the cathedral. Another building, maybe that's a chapel. But I'm going to cross the street. And one of the nice things about being in Australia is people like this. They see a crosswalk, they see a person, and they stop. You know, it's a it's a wonderful thing, because many places that I've traveled in the world, that's not going to be the case. But here is another cathedral here. We'll see what the name is. This is the St. Peter's Cathedral that we're coming upon. St. Peter's Cathedral, the Anglican Church of Australia. So there you have that church right there. As I'm walking about, there are no shortage of magpies, as I think that they're called, the magpies. And here is the entrance to this cathedral right here. Look at that. And there's the tower. Very nice. It is a nice city. I've been here for a week, I think. Starting today. It's been just about a week. As you go around the city here, oftentimes you'll see buildings like this, the Aboriginal Legal Service. So they've got the flag right there, which is the Aboriginal flag, and you'll see buildings like this around town where they're offering services to Aboriginals. Now here is it's not the main street, but coming on to it, not too far from the main street. This is one of the streets right off of the main street, and you'll see they've got a roundabout. Not many traffic lights in cities like this. You'll have roundabouts, and I'm still trying to figure out crossing on the roundabouts, because for some reason, if there's not a crosswalk, such as you see, this isn't you would think this is a crosswalk, but the cars are not as quick to stop. And I don't know if it's because there's not a painted crosswalk or what have you, but that's something that I learned pretty quickly. So I find my way down to I'm not quite sure what street this is, but it is probably just before 8 o'clock as the morning has started. I don't know that there's necessarily going to be a lot of people on the streets, but all the type of typical storefronts that you would see in any town in Australia, or any town across the world for that matter. You've got your real estate offices, your banks, your hardware stores, your Chinese restaurants, your barber shops. You've got there's a coffee shop right there. Another coffee shop. Now we're coming up to if I'm not mistaken, we're actually coming up to the main street here. This is the New England Hotel. First tapped 1857. First tapped 1857 is what it says. The New England Hotel. I think that this hotel was actually listed on the options of places that I could stay. And just across the way is a rather nice building. Look at that. The J.R. Richardson and Company Limited, 1842. 1842. Look at that building. To think, back 1842, there were horse-drawn carriages and what have you going up and down the street here. And I found my way to, I believe, what is the main thoroughfare. Now, this street here would take you down to a shopping area. There's a shopping plaza down at the end, and I'm gonna forego walking down that part of the main street. And this is it's rather an empty street right now, to be quite honest. It's Friday morning, and this is the Central Beardy Mall. Among other things, the following are prohibited within the mall: dogs, consumption of alcohol, riding a bicycle, skateboarding, rollerblade, and the like, unauthorized vehicle, ball games, and littering. It doesn't say anything about vlogging or YouTubing. Okay, so there's your New England hotel right there. And as I'm walking along, the sky is actually starting to darken a little bit. Here is the public notice board. And it would seem that they just recently cleared it off, because the other day I was here and there was quite a bit of stuff, so they must come in and clear that off rather regularly. But there's just little shops here. Here's a place called Caffeines in the mall. Looks like a small little coffee shop. You could go in and have yourself a cup of coffee, perhaps. I'm going to find my way down here in a little while and get myself a cup of coffee. Interestingly enough, a lot of these places that it's closed, it must be rather earlier than I thought, because a lot of these places just aren't open yet. But there you have Moxon's Bakery right there. There's a bookstore. It's always interesting doing these videos, because there'll be people inevitably that'll come across these videos that grew up here and have found themselves living somewhere else in the world, and oftentimes a video like this where they see the Tattersall's Hotel, and they've got maybe memories of working there at some point in time in their life, cleaning the windows like that young gentleman is doing right there. And they'll reach out to me and express their gratitude for taking the time to do a walk and talk video such as I'm doing here on this winter morning in the land down under. Now, a lot of the trees, this is winter time, so a lot of the trees naturally have lost their leaves. But I would imagine that a couple months ago it probably would have been a much different scene. Here's the news agency, and I remember somebody pointing out a news agency to me sometime, kind of like a drugstore, if you will. But that's the local news agency. Here's a tree that still has some of its leaves on it. It's rather a nice morning. The temperature is not too bad, whereas it was rather chilly just the other day about this time in the morning. Today it's actually rather pleasant as I come across the Courthouse right here. Look at that. Well, the time actually is a little bit after 8, 20 after 8 in the morning, for those of you that are curious. So there is your courthouse in Armidale. And I would imagine that right here, this where they might have different venues like concerts or performances or what have you, there seems to be a stage. And you would see it's right next to the Armidale Post Office. Post and Telegraph Office. Way back in the days, you wanted to send a telegraph. I wonder if they said, I want to send a telly. Look at that. There is your post office. And then I turn the corner and look at this building here. Isn't that nice? There really is so much to Australia. It's it's a wonderful world, or a wonderful country, I should say. And there are people that people that just dream of coming to Australia. It's on their bucket list. Right up there next to Scotland or say Italy or something. They wanna go to Australia. And oh goodness gracious! Not only have I had the opportunity to come here once, but twice now. And if you needed to tie up your horse, you would probably tie your horse up right here. You see? Look at that. So we'll find our way down this section of the street right here, and I think that I'm almost down to the end. Here's the Australian Mutual Provident Society building right there. As the rain starts to come down. It's actually a well-timed video. The video is, I'm looking at the time of the video, it's been all of about 16 minutes, which makes for a nice length of a video. Here we're coming down to a rather large building. I think it's called Hannah's. And the sky is starting to darken up as I'm walking along. But folks, that is your that is your short, very abbreviated walk and talk tour of Armidale, New South Wales, Australia. And I hope you enjoyed it. Armidale is situated in close proximity to a plethora of national parks. So it's an ideal place to base yourself if you want to explore some of the wonderful national parks. And there's no shortage of national parks throughout Australia. All right, have a wonderful day. Hope you enjoyed this tour of this wonderful New South Wales town called Armidale.